Chizuru Mizuhara is just a rental.
So I am conflicted over the dialogue here, because while it is setting up the conflict for the episode, it is shit we've already heard before, and the sequence would have been far more emotionally impactful if it was just silent. So while it isn't the worst thing ever to have dialogue here, I do think the show shows us that it's quite a lot more focused on telling than showing. Okay, here's a question. How does this work? So, judging from how small the shore looks in the shot from the previous episode when she falls overboard, and the fact that the boat keeps going further out as the scene in the last episode progressed, it had to have been a few kilometers from the shore. Then he manages to swim so fast it takes the Coast Guard a while to show up to them after being notified pretty much as soon as they went overboard, with him carrying a presumably 50-kilogram girl. That must make him the greatest swimmer of all time, which also makes it bizarre how he seems to have drowned, since if he swam her all the way to shore, then he wouldn't have had that much water in his lungs, and probably wouldn't have passed out from that. And before someone tries to say that they just washed up on the shore, I hate to break it to you, that's not how the sea works. And if they were unconscious a few kilometers from the shore, and then were washed up on the shore, they would definitely be dead, because they would have been thrown under the sea repeatedly and ran out of oxygen. Of R.A.G just not thinking through its setups.
Mizuhara!
How the fuck did you hear that underwater? Like, for a show that loves pools so much, you'd think you would know you can't just make English, or I guess Japanese, words deep in the water. Like, that is a great metaphor for how fucking lazy the show really is.
Only did I fail at taking care of myself, but I even put my clients in danger.
How do you think the procedures would work with the agency in this case? Would it be she was fired on the basis of endangering a client, or would Kazuya have to bring it up for her to get sacked? The answer? Fuck you, because the show never bothers to explore this.
Wake up! Come on!
Yeah, here's a quick tip. If someone is passed out on a beach, they usually won't respond if you ask them if they're alright. I mean, if he was lying there with his eyes open, then this question would make some sense, but his eyes are clearly closed, so why bother?
Come on! Come on! You gotta wake up now!
Okay, yes, I get this is meant to be tension building, but again, what they did with her talking to herself was fine, but this is just stupid. Like, obviously yelling at him to wake up isn't going to work. Try something else for the love of God. Like, what they do with her calling for help and realizing there is none is way better for tension building than her just screaming at him.
What are you trying to prove?
Yo, have you learned nothing from these past few episodes? This is Kazuya. He didn't have a deeper motivation. He obviously acted on impulse, like he did in episode 1, episode 2, and episode 3. Like, this is utterly idiotic dialogue, and it's just making the scene so much worse than it should be.
I told you how you treat me is up to you!
That isn't a counterpoint. What? If how he treats you is up to him, then he was entirely within his rights to do this. That is such a bizarre thing to bring up as your argument, because it's one of the only things that doesn't help your case whatsoever. Lucky he can't argue back because, you know, he's unconscious on a fucking beach, and yet you're still talking to him like he's conscious and arguing with you?
Guess hero stuff in real life isn't as easy as movies or manga.
That's pretty obvious, bro. And the thing with this is, because this show is so against just showing you things and letting you make up your mind, we have to have him say, hey, that was hard, instead of us seeing his struggle to save Chizuru, which is just such lazy writing.
I'm sorry, Gran. I never did get to introduce you to a nice girl.
So this one's more debatable based on her actual character, but considering he calls her a nice girl several times, the irony of this line will still become apparent later.
For not even cleaning up my own mess.
But you did clean up the mess of your friends thinking the two of you are dating. Like, she even complimented you on it, and you were fully committed to cleaning it up. So this line just makes no sense in context. Why does he always act so shocked when she switches between her work mode and real mode so easily? Like, I know this is just a really boring and unfunny running gag, but obviously it's her job, so naturally she would be pretty experienced between switching from normal to rental girlfriend mode.
I have to remember that Mizuhara is a rental girlfriend. I shouldn't interpret that as a real kiss.
You just shouldn't interpret it as a real kiss. Full stop, end of sentence. Not just because she's a rental. Like, obviously it isn't a real kiss, because it is a procedure to save your life, not to show her affection to you. Though to be fair, this isn't focused on much after this, so whatever, just more stupid Kazuya writing.
I'm touched. Such concern for my health.
And Alex never does cease to amaze me with his range.
Later, Kazuya. Try not to drown in the bathtub.
If I do, don't call the Coast Guard.
Holy shit, this is actually a really nice moment between these two. Again, as I've said multiple times, these writers really should have worked on something that wasn't harem anime.
I'll do you a favor and not tell Nagumi about your stupid blues.
So while this line makes a fine justification, this is so annoying that this arc has absolutely no bearing on the story, because it does just show how the writers are basically telling you they don't care about the last few episodes, which really breaks immersion, because then you wonder if they're going to care about, you know, the next stuff that they tell you, which they don't, by the way.
Look, it isn't all that simple. There's still stuff you don't understand.
What does that have to do with anything? If he doesn't understand it, he would want you to explain it, and you can't, because then you'll not only never hear the end of it, but it will then be impossible for you to ever introduce a girl to your friend group ever again. So, if you know all those reasons why you can't tell him, then don't say shit like this that might make him ask questions.
Life may not be as easy as a lot of people think it is, but it also isn't as hard as knuckleheads like you make it for yourself.
Oh, this is actually such a good line. Real shame the show hates you, Kibe, but if it's worth anything, you're all good, bruh.
He acts like I have a choice here.
Because you didn't tell him she's a rental. Like, I know you can't tell him, but if you are so set on not telling him, then stop blaming him for coming to logical conclusions given the fact that he doesn't know she's a rental.
Why do I torture myself over Mizuhara of all people?
Well, the classic Kazuya loses his mind with goofy animation. Another instance of an unfunny running gag, because this show likes doing tropes because they're popular, not because they have any reason to exist within the context of the story.
By the way, I already made the booking for next week. No actual date.
Which was a stupid idea to begin with, both because of the premise around his commitment to ending it and because of his fundamental misunderstanding of the business model. And as well, why do they never show said booking, considering they've brought it up 2 episodes in a row? Fuck me, I guess, because the show is content to let me go to the grave with these questions in my head.
Once again, I'm sorry for everything.
Rule of thumb with apologies. If you do it over and over, but it is clear that you haven't learned a goddamn thing, then the apology is just a waste of oxygen. And you continuing it is just wasting more and more oxygen. Like, you continuing to apologize is probably pissing her off more than your actual actions at this point, because you never change, apologize, and expect sympathy. Grow up or shut up.
That was no kiss. It was just CPR to keep her client alive.
No shit. Almost like this is a business and letting your clients die on your watch makes you liable. Like, for a business major, you truly know nothing about business, and it really shows. And it really shows also that the writers really shouldn't have had the main protagonist of this story be a business major. This scene is just bizarre. I'm not going to play most of it, but suffice to say, there are many objectively better ways to communicate that Kazuya likes Chizuru more than Mami than him trying to jack it to Mami, but Chizuru keeps cutting in, such as him just telling us, or if you want to show this image for some reason, have him see it and then scroll past it instantly, looking for Chizuru, because it shows that better than this. Secondly, the sequence only shows that Kazuya is more sexually attracted to Chizuru than Mami, and does nothing to explain why he loves her as a person. And as well, this scene is going for a show not tell, and yet they have him do a fat monologue afterward, which nullifies the effect of that. So what is this even supposed to be if it fails on all those levels? Whatever, man. Let's just move on and agree that this scene was just made to piss people off.
If I told her this is the way it all began, Mizuhara would be pissed.
Dude, I can assure you, she isn't the only one that would be pissed. I mean, I am scarred for life for watching a piece of writing on a level of brain dead that has never been reached, and probably never will. Again. By the way, I'm totally lying. They're gonna completely exceed this in like 2 episodes. Kazuya, buddy, for the love of God, just move. You will not get anything out of this. Ichinose isn't supposed to know you, so she won't say anything to you. And if you push it, and her friends find out because of you, she will be pissed the fuck off, and so you won't get anything later.
Never had that reaction to Mizuhara.
So that's just blatantly wrong, because you had that reaction in episode 1 when you first saw her, and at the start of episode 2, in episode 3 when you saw her as Ichinose. Like, I know this line is trying to set up his new feelings for her, but they are just failing miserably, and it shows.
Mizuharu's grandma!
Sorry, how does he get surprised by that? Why would it be anyone else? Do you really think Sayuri is such a common name that your grandmother happens to have 2 very close friends, both with that name? Like, come on, man, common sense. And come on, writers. A character with no common sense is not relatable. Most of us have that skill.
Hi, so is this just a coincidence?
So you may be thinking I'm about to call this a contrivance, but I think it's decently justified, since as someone who spent a decent amount of time in the hospital, I can definitely see how 2 people who just got out would want to have a weekend together. However, my main problem is, how did Kazuya at no point get informed of this? Like, he didn't even know where they were going, why they were going there, and who was going. Like, am I high? You think a college student living on his own would ask a few questions in the semester before going on a trip with his family? But I guess we have to say he was too stupid to ask?
What are you looking around for? You're acting so strange, Kazuya.
Yeah, why don't you just ask? They already know the 2 of you are supposed to be dating, and have already been in the same room with the 2 of you. So there is no punishment for you just asking, and in fact it would come off as more natural than this looking around business.
So I got you one of the basic rooms on a lower floor.
Okay, so is this moment supposed to be showing off how privileged Kazuya is, or did I get that impression by accident? Because if it was on purpose, nice job exploring this element of his character that's implied but hardly explored, and if by accident, well done on not understanding your own writing. It only happens like 10 times a day.
Looks like the last guest left some stuff, and housekeeping never came to clean it all up. Well, that's kinda weird.
Why are you saying all of this out loud? I mean, I guess it makes some sense since you do think you're alone, but, like, this is a relatively crowded building, so you would still likely not want to say all of this out loud. Although, as we see from the rest of the show, he clearly doesn't care about crowded spaces like, I don't know, apartment complexes when it comes to sound. Are you kidding me, man? Of all the things to do right now! Although, to be fair, I think it is somewhat justified here, since, you know, this episode is exploring the fact that he's just fallen for her for real, and therefore needs something like this. But all the other moments exactly like this are totally idiotic. So, this doesn't really come off as a genuine thing, and more just comes off as the writers doing the same shit they always do.
Huh? Come on, they're not conspiring.
They are absolutely conspiring, broship. I hate it when this show has characters argue POVs that are objectively and wholly stupid, instead of trying to think of another POV that makes some sense in the situation.
Stop right there. You can take the stairs.
I mean, I don't know what the point of that even is, since 1, they clearly seem to arrive at the same time, so it's utterly pointless, and 2, and more importantly, if the point was to keep him away while she told the grandmothers, then why does she just flat out not tell them?
But Grandma, I want a room with you. This was supposed to be our weekend getaway.
Also a fantastic delivery by Lizzie here.
Sure, but sharing a room.
So this is just weird to me. The way she is animated and talking clearly makes it seem like she's doing her usual act, but it's kind of weird to do that in front of your own grandmother, who knows what you are usually like and could therefore likely catch the disparity. But she doesn't, so I guess never punished?
What territory is she talking about?
Oh, she's just talking about the territory of Cisalpine Gaul. No, of course not! The one you think, bro. Like, is this supposed to be Kazuya trying to enter denial, or just being an idiot? I don't know, but despite the fact that the show has scenes like this in excess, you never understand what the point of it is. Except the obvious of just padding out the runtime.
I'm totally out of cash, though.
And that, mi amigo, is the exact reason why you should have started looking for a job after episode 2, let alone still not look for one now, and still not get one until goddamn episode 9.
How? With the rates you charge?
To be fair, I guess since he pays in cash, it would be fair to assume that she gets the cash, but my bet is that the money goes to the agency and then they are paid a predetermined wage/salary. Don't get how the agency consistently get the cut, but I'm not going to knock Kazuya for that one because most people would assume the same. And also because the show never bothers to explore the payment system and also contradicts this line in the season 2 finale.
I know what she means.
Wow, just what I needed. 20 seconds of Kazuya checking Chizuru out. Thank you, show. You read my mind. As well, though, this scene utterly ruins another episode far, far later down the line, which builds into the problem with this hot spring trip, where it never impacts anything and actively hurts this and the next episode's pacing, as well as the premise of Season 3, Episode 6. So they really messed up with where they put this.
And yes, I'm going to tell both of them that you and I are broken.
So there are many problems with this line, so let's get into them. One, this kind of contradicts what she said about giving up and the fact she wasn't going to let the money go to waste, since making it awkward for everyone would inherently be making this money go to waste. And two, once again, this is another line that will build into the core issue with episode 7, but we're still not there yet, so we'll talk about that when we get there. And 3, the level of commitment shown here is just super annoying, considering she absolutely backs out, like, with the slightest sign of resistance, which is utterly idiotic for trying to show really anything about this character, which we'll discuss in a few episodes.
Relationship was nothing but a lie.
What was the point of that scene? Literally everything in there has been said, communicated, and pretty much everything else several times before this. We are not idiots. We can comprehend things that you tell us. You do not need to interrupt another scene you're doing just to tell us this shit.
Ah, so this is only the fantasy of a lecher if the lecher is the opposite sex?
I know. It's the Hot Springs episode of a harem anime. It's fan service. You just don't get it. I know. But it really does just feel like padding. Especially since the Hot Springs weren't even a thing until halfway through the damn episode. It has no bearing on the rest of the story, and the show has moments like this in excess, so does it really need this one?
What would you do if you found out I'd been lying?
Come on, what kind of statement is that? Why would you say something like that? Because even if you do go through with the breakup saying something as weird and out of nowhere as that, you will make things more awkward if Kazuya's grandmother relays them to Sayuri.
I give up. I don't know how to fix this mess.
Didn't you say the exact same thing like 3 minutes ago? Why wouldn't you change the first line to be something else and have this line be the one where she says she gives up? Because having her say it twice does just ruin the impact of the second time.
Just an annoyance to her.
Well, here's a more accurate word. Client. Because while you are an annoyance to most people, and you logically should be to her, that isn't the standard perspective she expresses, whereas the one about him being just a client most certainly is. Well, this thematic flip-flopping really makes it hard to nail down what the show's trying to explore, which really makes these scenes feel a lot more pointless, especially when you remember that they never come back. Well, this episode is all over the fucking place. On the one hand, it has a good opening sequence and a good scene with Kazuya and his friends toward the middle, but on the other hand, everything they try and do with Kazuya and Chizuru in this episode is horribly executed, to a degree that is honestly impressive, and the hot springs are so irrelevant that not only would cutting them have no impact on the plot, but I think it would make minimum 3, including this one, episodes better as a result. But now we've reached it, the introduction of Ruka episodes. We have the next one, then the 3 worst episodes of the show. So you pumped? I'm pumped. See you for episode 6, guys.